All right, well, let's relax and look at a topic on acting. And the topic is matching emotion in scripts. So, this is interesting because there's a lot of different acting techniques, and there's a lot of different. Now, first of all, the way to work with it is to work with your own technique. So you're developing your own acting, and it's not a matter of trying to obviously be someone else, but you're wanting to experience a real-time journey while you're acting. So when you're looking at a script, you could have 5 different people have a script, and each of them could do this exercise, and they could have 5 different results. So what they do is they would look and they'd work and see if they could identify some of the key emotions in the script. And then you work to be able to match your emotion to the script. And there's a way to do this so that it doesn't negatively affect you. And when you do it right, it actually catapults your acting. So all of a sudden you look more awake because you are more awake. You're more real. You look more real. Everything starts to work for you. You're more interactive, even if you're just working with a reader. So this is a fantastic thing to study. And emotions are intricate. But first thing with emotions, everybody thinks, well, not everyone, but some people, many people, think that emotions are feelings. They're not. There's feelings, and they might have the exact same labels as emotions, and then there's beneath it emotions. So you work to be able to get emotions. So you look at this script, you look at any script, and you work to be able to see if you can find the main 1, 2, or 3, the main emotional elements of that script, of that piece, of that work, whether it's a 2-minute, 2 pages, whether it's 10 pages, it doesn't matter. You look to see if you can find the emotional element. Then what you do is you have the option to work this way, first of all, regardless of technique. And you look to be able to look inside of yourself a little. And you try to find what it is that's inside of you that might be similar to that script. So let's say the script is about somebody having a great loss in life. And the great loss is something that's part of the script material. It's part of a script side that basically says stuff about the person having to deal with loss. And they've dealt with great loss. So there's this huge debate in acting about whether or not somebody plays a character or whether they're not playing a character. But the thing is that character is really whether or not you can access the part of yourself. And part of this whole discussion is really whether you're working with feelings, which sometimes can come and go, and they're very fleeting. They're real. They're exactly real. The feelings can come and they fly off and you won't even know that they went missing. Because you're involved, when you start to work with involvement in acting, and you start to work with involvement, the feeling might be with you when you're working with your what people call emotional preparation, or they call it actor preparation. And they're working with that so that they've got their feeling. And they've got a feeling, but as soon as they start to work with the interaction, all of a sudden the feeling's gone. Happens a lot. It happens a lot. So, when you're working with feelings, you want to work with not just the impulse to get into the work with a feeling, but you want to work with something of depth. So you work with different areas. You try and work with deep feelings. You try and wait till the feelings actually has depth. You want to wait till it actually has emotion. And that was the reason why. Back in New York City, it was called working with inner life. It was the inner life. It was the inner life. You work from the gut. So your goal in this whole thing is to work from the gut. Work with the inner life, which later became known as a popularized thing called emotional preparation. Because it's emotional. It's not feeling preparation, and it's not impulse preparation. It's emotional preparation. This whole thing is emotion. It's delved in emotion, and there's a reason why. See, I have this acting triangle. There's ideas at the top. There's the feelings beneath it. And after the feelings mature enough, they become emotions. And underneath that is emotions. And then there's acting tools that you can work with to be able to drive, you work with meaning or you work with motivation. You can work with consequence, although that's sometimes a lot logical. And when you're working with stuff to be able to work with it, you can drive these personal experiences that you find in yourself. You drive it through the emotional life, and then that will carry the emotional life into your acting experience, where it will actually be there for your acting during the real-time interaction. Because acting is real-time interacting. It's not just all reacting. Some people make that mistake, and a lot of famous actors make that mistake. They think that they can just go and react, just keep reacting. Well, it's entertaining, but it's not interactive. So they're limiting. They're only working with about half of their talent, not even. And that's an interesting topic. But we're looking at the topic of matching emotion to scenes, or matching emotion to scripts. So, you look at the emotion, you go into yourself, you try and figure out, is there something that you know about that emotion? Deep loss, right? Because we identified, now, somebody beside you in that audition, somebody beside you, they might look at that script and they might say, for them, it's something completely different. And that is absolutely okay. That is exactly how this industry works, is basically you get one person that interprets it one way, and they interpret it and they go, this is the way it is. Another person might interpret it a different way. And that's how creative things give birth, to how creation happens. So you've got the idea, and then you start to invite the feeling of the emotion. And you start to resonate with the feeling. And you get the feeling, so it's resonating in you. You're familiarized with the topic. Now, this might involve research. This might involve, could involve a couple weeks of research to be able to understand that type of emotion. And when you're looking at research, sometimes it's helpful to look at different things. Sometimes you might look at examples of somebody expressing that kind of emotion. But look at it to learn it, to absorb it. So you want to absorb the emotions. So you're not emulating them. You're not trying to copy every single movement to anything. You're not trying to copy anything. What you're trying to do and what you're going to do, be able to do, is you're going to be able to saturate in that kind of emotion. And that's the reason why back in New York City it was called Emotional Life. And you can look at this and you can see. Now you've got the whole concept of acting is doing, right? Acting is doing, and that's true. But here's the problem. Acting is doing, and I've seen a heck of a lot of work. I've watched over 20,000. It's been closer to 40,000 but I won't say, just say it's 20,000. But there's over 20,000 exercises in acting. Now, there's been a lot of them where people haven't gotten this work right, but I still learn from it. I learn from them. And I'm very grateful for those students that I've watched, and that's, I learn from them. Because there's so much, there's so many facets to this. It's amazing to not get off track. But you get emotions and scripts. You identify with your emotions and scripts. And you bring in your emotion by any means that you have to do to be able to understand. First of all, you have to understand what the emotion is. You have to understand what it actually is and how it actually accesses you. And when you invite those feelings in, you understand that those feelings are just the initial. It's just the initial impulses and the reactions and your initial reactions. And even if all you did was understand that you could go deeper with the feelings, then all of a sudden your work would be richer. So if you go from feelings and then you get emotions, and you start feeling emotions and you start feeling despair, then you go into what's called, or as many people have called it now, emotional preparation. You kind of isolate yourself and you let yourself saturate in that emotion. Saturate in it. Let yourself really deeply have that emotion. And keep working those ideas, keep working those emotions, keep working the feelings, keep letting them pour in. And you want to think of the emotion like it's a big placid lake that you're collecting. This is an emotional collection that's inside of you. And what this actually is an expansion of your humanity. Your whole humanity is expanding. It's a private, usually private, but there's all types of different ones of emotional preparation. So you take yourself in and you wait till you get a point where you feel like you've got emotion. Now, if you need to go back and do another week of research or another day of research to be able to figure this out for yourself, then go do it. You may not be ready to do the part until you do that preparation, until you do the understanding, until you've seen or been able to absorb the type of experiences that you're attempting to be able to prepare yourself to have. Right? So you work at yourself and you keep inviting this in. And then you can grab a meaning or a motivation and you can start adding different ingredients and you drive those meanings and those motivations through your emotional life. And then when it's being asked of you in the audition or in the work or in the exercise, you bring that motive. You remind yourself of that motivation. You remind yourself of that meaning. You remind yourself of the consequence, although consequences are often very logical, which they don't need to be. You can design. See, you're designing your own craft in acting. This is how you do it. And you work so that then you've got the script in front of you. And you've done this work yourself to be able to get the emotion set up. And you're not playing some sort of idea. You're not playing reactions when you go to work. You're not flirting around with feelings or ideas about what is in the work. You've got something. It could be small, but it could be large. It's some sort of emotion that you've worked on to be able to achieve. And then you've driven one last stimulus through that so that you've got a needle and thread, and the needle goes right through your emotion and then all of a sudden it links right into the script. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm feeling just a touch, little bits of devastation, just little bits. And just a little bit of emotion starting to come. Now I can sit here for hours and wait for it if I need to. And if that's the case, and I'm sitting there, then I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait until whatever needs to be ready for me to go into the material. And I can sit in the emotion, no problem. And then when the motivation comes, when I'm ready to work, all I have to do is grab that last ingredient, the needle and thread, put it through the emotion, and then start working on the material. This way of working will give you so much, because you're not flirting around with trying to do this stuff. You're actually involved. This is something that you've got material. Now you've got the material in your hand. And you just go down idea to idea to idea. You listen to your partner. Did you get an idea from them? You got the idea from them? Wow. Then give the next idea that's written. Then you get there, and you get the next idea, and you go back and forth. Now you're starting to have an experience. And what's actually happening is that because you've interwoven extra ingredient, motivation, meaning, or you've put some motivation through your emotion, all of a sudden, your work, it starts to float. And I'll tell you something. If you're having an experience, you're going to probably feel that sensation in acting. The sensation of floating. You feel lighter. It's not. You're not floating, but there's an emotion that's working. So the emotion in this case is like a desperation, or there's deep desire, and so whatever idea that I have here, with the emotion that I have, is going to flow through. And it was it comes out. So the feelings, the fluttery feeling, instead of butterflies, at first when you're learning the acting, you might feel some butterfly feeling. That's not the feeling that I'm talking about. And it's not even a feeling. It might be it definitely is. It's the feeling of emotions. There's a flux that happens, and what happens in your work, if you're working with emotion, the butterfly feelings settle, and all of a sudden you feel like you're going on an emotional ride. And depending on the other person, it's the emotional ride. So you've got your emotional ride. Some people won't be able to see this, but the right people will. So, and people may not know all the techniques, but this works. The emotions are here. So when I'm interacting with the actor, and there's this feeling of lightness, and there's a feeling of exchange. So it's very, very interesting, because it goes through. There's this element of you that all of a sudden you're starting to explore, and there's a discovery going on. So this is how you match emotion in scripts. You work with yourself in these ways, and you develop it, and you do this several times, a lot of times, and if you need to, you go back and you adjust what it is that you've put in yourself. See if you can find that. You get into that, you find that element, then you pull up one last thing, needle and thread. What are you going to use for your acting tool? Are you going to use a needle and thread of motivation? Or are you going to use the needle and thread of meaning? Can you use consequence that maybe isn't so logical? That there's something that's going to happen to you unless you have this conversation with this person in the script. So then all of a sudden you're using your acting tools and you're working with craft. So you've got your emotion. You've worked on that. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but you probably can. I'm I'm feeling concerned. I'm feeling concerned. I don't even have material in front of me. This is just my notes. So, this is how much I'm able to do, which is there. And if I follow the path then of, because I've done the emotional preparation, then I can follow the pathway and the roadmap of the ideas of the script. And I will obtain a version of what the writer has actually, the journey of the writer's intention. So try this out for yourselves and experience it and understand that you could use this you can use emotional preparation, like it's called now. For many, you can use it every single time you work. There's no limit to the amount of times you can work. And understand sometimes it's very subtle. So, boop, or what is it? Boop the like button or something. And help something and enjoy the process. So let's say instead of devastation, you wanted to go into something else. Do the same process. Do something to be able to change your emotion around. Now, if you're working at whatever you call it, the auditions. If you're working for all the auditions and all that nonsense, if you go there and you're into the auditions, and if you're really heavy in one emotion, you might want to actually ask them can they give you 5 minutes? Or can they give you a minute, something, so that you can kind of like clear out that last emotion and then go into the next emotion. And then you use the same process. You go through, it could be exhilaration. And then all of a sudden that would change the entire process. The process stays the same in structure, which is why it's called a technique. But the experience would be completely different. And it could be the exact same material. So enjoy this and good luck with it. And let me know in the comments or whatever you call it, all of the different opinions you have about it. Try and be nice, but be yourself.